Welcome back to Thinking Caps. In this episode, we are meeting Andrea from the Silverbullet Group. They are a Cheetah Digital partner over in the UK. And what does Silverbullet do? Well, they are a hybrid of data services. They use insight-informed content. They get into your programmatic. They really get into your MarTech stack, including a CDP, DMP world. And they have an always-on, consumer-centric approach to marketing that's really underpinned by intelligence and their expertise. So these guys are the best in breed of what they do. They can help you from beginning to end. We're going to talk today a lot about data privacy. We're going to talk about the third-party cookie and why you absolutely have to be collecting zero and first-party data moving forward. We talk a lot about the sea of confusion around CDPs, EDPs, DMPs, etc. They break it down, and Andrea really has a great perspective on what the future looks like for your brand and what kind of data you're going to need going into it. So without further ado, let's get it started. This is another episode of Thinking Caps. Let's dig in.
So, Andrea, thank you very much, obviously, for joining. And I wanted to kick off with a first question to set the scene, basically. So, could you give us and the audience your elevator pitch for Silverbullet, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, definitely. Happy to do that, guys. So, Silverbullet is essentially a data smart marketing services company. So, our role essentially is to be a service layer, a new generation service layer for marketers to sort of navigate through the cookieless future, really. So the company was funded just over 4 years ago by two ex-Oracle employees. Were actually pivotal in launching the DMP in the EMEA market at the time, and they really realized that there was a gap in the market for a specialist consultancy that was really focused on not only the deployment, but also the leverage and the maximization and utilization of data technology. So whether that was a DMP or a CDP or a marketing automation platform or any other MarTech tool. And that's really how the company started. So we started from a very small team of a few people in EMEA, in London, to being where we are today, which is a company with 60 people. We have offices in 4 offices across Europe and Australia, and we really expanded our the range of services and products that we provide to customers too. So we have our business is divided in 3 core pillars. So we have the services pillar, data services pillar, where we have all our experts on data technology platforms and marketing technology, whether that's from the technical side and the strategic side, and within that team, we help organizations both on the buy and the sell side, so marketers and publishers, to select the right, understand what the business goals are, sort of define the digital sort of ambitions, and the digital infrastructure that is needed to meet those goals, and then select the right technology to meet those goals. And then we work throughout the implementations and the launch and the strategic services around leveraging those platforms and ultimately generating ROI, which is the most important thing. And then we have our activation pillar. So we have various teams of there are experts around activation across paid media and direct marketing, leveraging existing technology as well as some proprietary tools that we developed to sort of be more efficient around our activation. And then there is the third and one of the most, and not nevertheless the most exciting pillar, which is our product pillar, which we can talk about later a bit more. And basically, in this area of the business, we have a team of developers and strategists and data scientists that develop, build, and launch products that are born from the feedback that we gather from our clients on the consultancy side. And the products that we build are really focused on addressing specific gaps in the market and challenges that our clients have. So in a nutshell, we are a services and product company, which is sort of future-facing, helping organizations navigating through a lot of industry changes that are happening at the moment.
Wow. So a lot of capabilities. Silverbullet's a great partner. We're happy to be a partner here at Cheetah Digital, and we're excited when you bring our platform and our capabilities to your clients. But I want to dig into something where you guys are kind of experts. the sea of confusion, I'm going to use sea of confusion around CDPs, right? There's CDPs, there's DMPs, we've got an EDP, like there's all these Ps, platforms. Can you kind of break down your perspective on that sea of confusion around CDPs and what they really mean, and like what marketers who might be investigating that kind of realm should really be considering? You know, not just, oh, we need a CDP, but no, what you should actually be doing is getting some capabilities that might be a CDP or this and that. But what's your point of view when it comes to that sea of confusion around all these?
And I would add, you know, be interesting to see the sea of confusion, not just about CDPs, but also CDPs and DMPs the interplay between those different technologies. So, yeah, solve the world for us.
Yeah, help us get rid of some confusion for our viewers.
Yeah, I will try to share my point of view on this. But so I think that definitely there is a lot of confusion in the market across marketers and publishers and tech vendors as well. And there was already confusion when it was much simpler, when we only had DMPs, just under 3-4 years ago. Well, CDPs have been around for longer, but let's say until probably 3-4 years ago, the core focus was still on the DMP. And even there, actually, marketers were struggling to sort of to position the DMP product in their marketing stack, and in some cases to leverage ROI from the platform. And then obviously CDPs came and became very trending, and now for a number of different reasons which we can discuss, a lot of different clients, a lot of different marketers are moving into the CDP space. And it's even more confusing because whereas the DMP ecosystem was somehow consolidated over the last probably 5 to 10 years, the CDP space is really not consolidated at all. So there are probably dozens or almost hundreds of CDP players in the market. So marketers are really struggling. But what I would say is that given the sort of what's happening in the industry, what has been happening in the industry for the last 2-3 years in regards to GDPR being deployed, CCPA in California, and many similar regulations around the states and other countries following sort of the GDPR route. Obviously, restrictions around third-party cookies and effectively the demise of the third-party cookie meant that the role of the DMP, the data management platform, in the client's marketing stack, in the marketer's marketing stack, has really been challenged for a couple of different reasons. First of all, I would say the main infrastructure of data management platform is built on the third-party cookie. So the main premise was to start from a third-party cookie as the main identifier, and then take other cookies from around the web, from different activation platforms and data partners, and then stitch all those cookies together to a main cookie. And then the second sort of foundational element of the traditional data management platform was really the amplification of a first-party data seed with cookie-based third-party data. And we all know what sort of where the anonymous cookie-based third-party data ecosystem and industry is heading to, given all those restrictions that we have. Especially, I would say, outside of the US, where numbers and volumes of third-party data were always very, very, very small. So for these reasons, marketers increasingly moved focus from the data management platform to the customer data platform. And this is actually something that we saw firsthand with the clients that we worked on. So I would say only 3 years ago, 80% of the sort of marketing, so implementation, data technology implementation projects that we were working on within our consultancy service layer was focused on implementing data management platform. And that paradigm has completely shifted now to the CDP. So the vast majority of implementations around specifically data management technology that we work on, as well as assessment and vendor analysis and things like that, it's really focused on the customer data platform. And the main difference with the customer data platform is that while there are many features and many sort of tools and within those platforms that are overlapping with the DMP in terms of segmenting data, activating data into various channels, are similar and overlapping with the DMP. The CDP is primarily focused and built around first-party data. So while some of the DMP use cases around activating audiences in paid media can still be facilitated, the CDP, the customer data platform, is really focused on creating first-party data-based profiles, and then enrich those first-party data profiles with as many different identifiers, both known and unknown, that can be collected through different touchpoints by organizations, and then having profiles that are rich enough to be able to be activated across not only paid media channels, but also direct marketing, on-site personalization, be used as a sort of as an audience engine that can also be leveraged into BI tools rather than customer service tools, and many other different applications that a business, not only the marketing function within a business, but also other functions might leverage. So actually the promise of the CDP, it's probably a lot bigger, and the scope is a lot bigger of the DMP, which is very much advertising focused. That said, I would say that vast majority of organizations are still leveraging the CDP for marketing use cases only, and specifically in some cases for paid media use cases only, across social and programmatic, for instance. But that's just, I think, a sign of sort of a maturity curve. Obviously, programmatic and paid social are usually short, sort of low-hanging fruit and quite easy to activate use cases for a CDP. But the ambition of all marketers that do invest in a CDP should be to then create consumer journeys and connect those consumer journeys across many different touch points beyond paid media.
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. And you know, as you were kind of talking through that and looking at the differences between CDPs and DMPs and the change that's happened over the last few years, we've obviously seen a very, very fast and aggressive move around privacy over the last couple of years, which has obviously contributed to the rapid decline of the third-party cookie. You know, you got Apple's IDFA. There's a whole bunch of different privacy moves that are changing the sort of fundamental way that marketers have to operate and think about their strategy. Not just marketers, I mean companies have to think about their strategies moving forward. So my question is really kind of, when you go see a client, you know, and you're seeing somebody for the first time, what are your you know, top tips for telling them about how they should be thinking about evolving their data strategies? Obviously, implementing a CDP is one, but could you give us a very high level view of kind of what those tips would be?
Yeah, sure. So I think obviously it really depends on which clients we speak to. So marketers across different verticals would have a different approach to the data strategy based on the number of touch points that they have with their consumers. To give an example of a vertical that I'm really focused on, which is CPG vertical, and the CPG industry, from a marketing perspective, is going through a monumental shift in the way that they think about their marketing and they run their marketing and advertising campaign. So while historically these sort of companies would be heavily reliant on third-party data and walled gardens, which they still are, of course, but with third-party data and third-party cookies phasing out, there is a major focus on first-party data. And usually for these sort of organizations, our core recommendation starts from the necessity of building a strong first-party data foundation. And the reason for that, it's not so much to get to the point where you would just have one-to-one communication with all the people that consume your products, because obviously that's unrealistic. As a CPG, for instance, vast majority of your products will be sold offline, so it would be very hard to have a one-to-one conversation with everyone. In the same way that, for instance, a finance organization or a travel organization might be able to do. But regardless, building a robust first-party data strategy based on persistent IDs So ideally, starting from an email as the golden record, as the golden ID that you use to start building a profile from. It's actually so building that kind of database that you can then enrich with interesting attributes and declared information or inferred attributes as well, depending on which type of data enrichment initiative you run. So having a robust first-party database provides the ability to these companies to generate insights that are much more accurate than the insights that you'd be able to generate from a traditional panel or an offline survey, for instance, which is how things were sort of managed until recently. And not only you can generate better insights, so the more first-party data you have, you can generate then better insights. Those insights can then be used for things like predictive modeling, creating seed audiences that can then actually be used to leverage the walled gardens capability a little bit smarter. For instance, no one can deny that investing in the big walled gardens such as Facebook and Google and Amazon now as well, it's a very important tactic for most companies because the data, well, first of all, the eyeball, that's where the eyeballs are, but also there are very rich deterministic data that can be used to enrich your own first-party data. So the best way to actually leverage those walled gardens platform is to have enough of your own first-party data, which you can then combine with the data from the walled gardens to really optimize and maximize performance from the activity that you would run there. But not only that, actually by building a robust first-party data set, you can also add more channels to your mix as a CPG, for instance, including email marketing, and really focusing on creating as many one-to-one communication as you can, to providing a value exchange, which is very important as well. And then that will result in you having even more first-party data, which you can then use to generate more insight. And this sort of creates a virtuous cycle that ultimately is going to improve the performance of your campaigns and the efficiency of your campaigns on an ongoing basis.
So I'm gonna ask you. I'm putting you on the spot here and ask you about where the rubber meets the road. Right? We agree with you. You need more first-party data. I don't care if you're CPG, travel, insurance, hospitality. It doesn't matter. First-party data is going to be the data that's secure moving forward. With the cookie crumbling, IDFA, just who else knows what's coming and crumbling from that third-party data perspective? And we at Cheetah have Cheetah experiences where dozens and dozens of different ways you can interact, consumer-facing digital experiences. Watch and win, sweepstakes, surveys, photo contests, all these kind of things that were usually associated with social, but now they can be used anywhere. So I guess my question to you, do you have any ideas, examples, or have you seen anything interesting where a CPG brand, whether that's a potato chip or something off the shelf at your local grocer, how are they getting first-party data? Like, how are they literally getting and building this data? Forget the CDP and the DMP and everywhere they're going to put it. Have you seen any interesting trends on how CPGs are actually going and getting that declared data from consumers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there are probably two key macro initiatives or areas that most CPGs are focusing on. With the purpose of generating declared first-party data. So definitely the first one is e-commerce. So even though, as we said before, e-commerce is always going to be sort of a fraction of, or not always, but at least for the foreseeable future, is going to be a fraction of the total revenue of a potential CPG brand. Mm-hmm. The data that you can generate through an e-commerce pilot or platform are incredibly valuable because that's true purchase data that you can then use to create very robust seed audiences, which you can use for insights modeling, activation, custom audiences, and email marketing in a number of different use cases.
Well, and not to put in there, but even like e-com, so some brands can't do it, right? Because they have relationships with the retailer. Let's say it's like the TV world. It's like, can't go direct, otherwise we're going to kill you. So the e-com is definitely there. And not only that, you get 100% margin on your revenue, right? You cut out the retailer. So yeah, that's a really important channel if you have the ability to actually go with it. So I agree with that. What's your other idea?
Yeah, I think all CPGs should definitely invest in some sort of form of e-commerce pilot, sort of trying to have at least a few sort of D2C brands within their portfolio that they can experiment with and collect data from. The second point is really around the value exchange. So, and that this I think is one of the sort of most crucial and pivotal tactics that CPG brands can deploy to generate and collect and generate first-party data, which they can then use sort of throughout the journey and in their campaigns. And this really sort of boils down to making sure that you have interesting content, maybe leveraging existing sponsorships that you might have with different event partners or retail sponsorships, and generating cool content that actually your consumers can engage with. And at the same time, making sure that you have the right mechanics in place, value exchange mechanics in place, to actually lure your consumers into giving you their data, because actually you're giving something back to them, which is very valuable. So this could be, in some cases, a promotion or a sweepstake, or in some other cases could be a discount to or a discount to a specific product or a merchandise that they might love. Or it might be, for instance, the generation of a very cool sort of activity for them. So, or if you maybe partner with a big event, you might provide free tickets to the event, and that's obviously very valuable for a consumer, and they're more than willing to give access, to give their data to you. So overall, I would say having a very strong value exchange mechanics, whether through promotion or maybe gamification, it's the best vehicle for a CPG organization to collect valuable declared first-party data or zero-party data.
Agreed. Richard, you've been doing this forever.
Yeah, I definitely have been doing this for forever. The value exchange mechanics and collecting gazillions of data records, zero-party data records from consumers. It's interesting. We just filmed Thinking Caps with the chief data scientist at Aviva, insurance company, obviously a big multinational organization, and we were really talking about that sort of interplay between data that you can collect directly from people, and obviously the traditional format in insurance has not been zero-party data experiences. It's typically been consumer research, focus groups and stuff, obviously things that we can do in many different ways with the value exchange now. But he was also talking obviously about the importance of augmenting that kind of data with the observed data. Anywhere where you can observe how people behave, you can bring that in, analyze it, look for segmentation, do machine learning, AI, all the rest of it, the better. So, I'd be interested in sort of thinking about your sort of view on that balance between data that you're collecting from consumers, and CPG obviously having to do a lot because they didn't have any real data of volume. They are different from other industries. They I mean, I think I've told this before on Thinking Caps, but I did meet a very senior person from Unilever a number of years ago. They're a customer of ours now and a great client. So this is old info. But I met this very senior person, and they were like, I don't need to know who my customers are. I can get hyper-personalized content at scale through Facebook and a coterie of different third-party data providers. Why do I need to collect data on consumers, right? And I remember walking away from that meeting thinking, the laws of gravity here on
a little skewed.
Yeah, a little skewed on what I thought was sensible best practice. And I think on privacy, as many ways, it's just brought people back to sensible marketing rules, permission-based marketing, the rest of it. So just I'd be interested in your comment on that, and how you help navigate customers through the collecting of the data, and then the analyzing and the observing of the data through a variety of different channels.
Yeah, 100%. So basically, I guess we need to sort of make a distinction between the data collection piece. Obviously, the first step into the data journey is make sure that you collect the right data. And in this case, let's assume that we do that through promotional activity. And then through a promotional campaign or promotional activity, we will be able to collect a bunch of email addresses, for instance, and then specific information that we might be able to ask within a form or a promotion. What we then need to do is to enrich that data. So that's what you were talking about around the observation of the existing data set you have. because especially in the example of CPG, the amount of first-party data, not only the amount of first-party data that they'll be able to collect is probably small compared to other verticals, but also actually the depth of the data, the attributes that they will be able to have of any given user, it's also quite limited. So what's really important to do is then to go through a data enrichment process, which can be done in a number of different ways. So first of all, by leveraging a CDP, for instance, or a similar platform, you can start building up a profile by stitching up different touch points attached to the same consumer. So you might start from a form or a competition, but then maybe you also run a campaign, a media campaign, and you see that user off site, and you track that campaign engagement and attach that campaign engagement to the profile. Maybe you see the same user after a few weeks on your e-com platform, and then you're able to collect all those data as well. So even just by collecting more and more first-party data over time, you really need your profile just with first-party data. There is then the enrichment through external data sets, for instance. So we have clients that work with data providers, so deterministic data providers. So I'm not talking about sort of cookie-based third-party data, but actually providers that have email-based verified data sets with a bunch of different attributes, depending on the specialty, which we can also then use to enrich the existing first-party data base of our clients. So we are adding dimension and depth to the first-party data set that we have. And then obviously there is a data science piece and the sort of advanced analytics. So this is basically leveraging data science and machine learning and interesting and specific applications within machine learning to mine the existing first-party data, looking at all the different attributes that are available, and then generate new attributes that can be generated, for instance, through clustering, so segmentation, or maybe a score that could be attached, a propensity score that could be attached to those specific profiles, to enrich your first-party data even further. So definitely, data science it's a very interesting tactic and strategy that CPG brands should, and as well as other verticals, should look to deploy in order to enrich their first-party data set. Obviously, it's something that marketers will tend to do when they're a little bit more mature into their data journey. So it's not kind of tactical strategy on day one, but definitely something that can unlock a lot of value. To give you a practical example of how this can work in a really cool way. So we work with a partner that actually provides sort of social login functionality. So when we would run content and promotional campaigns for our clients, we would then also be able to, through the social login function, not only to collect the email address, but then to basically, through the social login, connect via API with the social media platform that is used for that specific login button, and get access to all the raw data that are publicly available from that user profile, and then use machine learning to create real-time scores and segments and attributes that are then ingested in the client CDP and can be used as attributes for segmentation. So starting by just first-party data and combining that in a smart way with social media data, for instance, we're able to build a much richer profile by observing additional data sets, which ultimately leads to a lot more flexibility and granularity in the type of audiences that we can build and activate.
That's interesting, because you just answered the next question that I was going to ask you, which was like,
how are you?
Yeah, bringing this through back this data that you're collecting, the first party data, and then bringing that to the walled gardens and how you're driving value out of that. So maybe I'll just tweak the question a little bit and just go, do you think, do you have any ideas or thoughts or predictions on how that kind of relationship between major brands and the walled gardens is going to change? Do you think the walled gardens are going to make it easier for people to bring their data, to get value from their data and mix it with the walled gardens? Or do you think things are going to get tighter because of privacy? Where do you think this is all going?
I would say bringing data to the walled gardens is definitely not a problem. Actually, like walled gardens, they're very happy to take your first-party data, to allow you to bring your first-party data. So I think
as long as you're bringing your checkbook with you.
100%, yeah. Checkbook first of all, and then bring
checkbook first.
Data.
Okay,
but,
check.
But if you consider, like, obviously one of the biggest walled gardens, Facebook, they've enabled custom audiences for ages. So organizations are able to either bring their online first-party data or their offline first-party data, or whatever kind of first-party data set they have, they can bring it, upload it, and then they create a custom audience within the Facebook ecosystem. So that includes Instagram and the Facebook audience network in some cases. And then you can either do remarketing on that audience, or you can use it as a seed audience for lookalike modeling. And Google have a similar product. It's called Google Customer Match, which is now also is basically integrated across all their user interfaces for marketing. And you can do exactly the same thing. You can bring your first-party data, upload it, create a custom audience, match it with Google IDs, and do the same thing. Amazon, very similar product, Snapchat, they're all kind of going into the same direction, which is giving you the chance to bring your first-party data to do better, smarter, more efficient marketing. And I think that trend is only going to grow over time. Not only that, but actually now the interesting thing is that there are technology platforms that are allowing you to do the same or similar thing that you would be able to do with the walled gardens, but with publishers. So basically providing an intermediary piece of technology that you can use to anonymously and safely match your first-party data with the publisher first-party data, and basically recreate what is a custom audience in Facebook, but on a publisher network. So that's only going to increase. I would say the challenge with walled gardens is to take data out. So it's already almost impossible to get any data, whether that's campaign data or the specific walled garden data, out of the walled gardens. I think that's only going to get harder. However, all the walled gardens, or at least the major walled gardens, are providing some version of a clean data room. For instance, Google Ads Data Hub is an example of that, where you're essentially able to bring your first-party data and analyze performance of your campaigns against a specific first-party data set and generate insights within a safe space, but not at aggregated level rather than a user level. With the caveat then you will then not be able to export your enriched first-party data set, but you only get the insights that you can then apply from a strategic perspective across your marketing. So I think,
No, sorry, not to cut you off, but I mean, those walled gardens, they'll give you the clean room. It's like the foyer of the castle. But then if you wanted to bring it out, it's like a moat of fire that is 1,000 feet tall that says, no, it stays here. Bring more of yours to us. It is what it is, right? But and it's interesting because, we're talking about third-party cookie dying and like IDFA and, device tracking. It's just shifting. It's shifting somewhere else. But I think, and we're almost at time here, I think we all agree, and we've heard it loud and clear. Mark Pritchard, we quote all the time, said it in 2019. Collect your own first-party data. Have a relationship with your with your customers, whether you're CPG or anything else. Get that golden record, as you mentioned. Maybe that's the email. Maybe that's the mobile.
And think about loyalty and the importance of that for collecting data as well.
Yeah.
For first-party data.
The value exchange. And by the way, if you want to dig into this stuff, we have amazing zero-party data playbook on our website where you can download all of that. We have tons of examples from Vodafone and Discovery Networks and Air New Zealand and Kiwi Bank and all these great different industries on how they're collecting it, how they're using it, how they're messaging directly, and even back, like even Botech, where I came from, they were getting an over 6-time increase in engagement when you said, we brought our own email addresses to Google Match. You know, persona A, persona B, persona all the way through Z, when we brought them back and had hyper relevant creative ads, Gmail ads, YouTube ads that spoke directly to what we knew about the customer, our money went 6 times farther than using Google's, you know, inherent targeting tools. So the writing's on the wall. It's been there for a while. Collect your own first party data, get a CDP, get a DMP, get an EEP, get a, you know, don't get an STD, but, you know, use your data and take it to the walled gardens and be effective. That's my close. You guys can close the show.
Yeah, and I would say also, I would just say that sort of beyond first-party data is crucial not only to be able to access to multiple touch points, but also to use the walled gardens more efficiently and smartly. But actually, there is definitely a future for, regardless of the third-party cookie data demise, there is definitely a role for first-party data to play in the open programmatic ecosystem as well. To give you a very practical, quick example, we recently built and launched a platform called 4D, which is a contextual intelligence platform. And aside from sort of the usual use cases of contextual around advanced contextual targeting and brand safety, what we are giving the chance, what we built basically give the chance to marketers to bring their own first-party data, analyze the off-site behavior of the sort of the content that the users within those first-party data segments consume, and then based on that we can generate contextual insights and then build relevant context, basically creating what we would call a sort of the alternative to cookie-based lookalike modeling. But from a contextual lookalike modeling perspective. So I would say combination of robust first-party data set, using smart, using walled gardens as efficient as possible, and focusing on the power of the context and the content is definitely a winning recipe for CPG marketers, but any other marketer really.
Boom, mic drop. Boom, mic drop right there.
I was wanting to close out. I've been waiting to do this for 20 minutes now, which is, you know, if you're a marketer and you're trying to figure out how to navigate the cookieless future, right? And you're looking for a silver bullet. Ching.
Boom, nailed it.
Yeah, you know, the clear silver bullet here is a combination of Cheetah Digital's technology and silver bullet's products and services. There you go.
Match made in heaven.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Andrea. I really appreciate you coming on to Thinking Caps.
Yeah, that was great, man.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we're going to be talking. We're going to have you back. We're going to talk about our client successes together. But this was a great kickoff, you know, of a true partnership between Cheetah Digital and Silverbullet. So we really appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you. Likewise, it was great to spend time with you and to be invited. Take care.
Awesome.
Thanks, guys.